Hi, I'm Joel Devendorf. Sometimes it's helpful to hear the rest of the story, or even the original story, as it were. Recently, a friend encouraged me to share my scars stories, a concept we learned at a recent managers meeting from former Navy SEAL Clint Bruce. Clint's encouragement and idea is simply to let those you lead know the backstory of failures and triumphs, the reality of how you got to where you got. Part of that reality is the effect of time and the cumulative impact of lesson learning moments getting repeated until they're mastered. 19 years. I've been doing this Write Your Congressman thing for 19 years now. It took me a long time to figure out some of these finer point details, and it didn't come quick for me and many of us old timers. But what it really took for me was that decision moment when I said, no more missing it. And I am gonna get this thing down. Then every time another decision point came to me, I had to recall that moment. While having the scars conversation recently, I recalled a song by a guy named Josh Wilson. That was then, this is now. It's a great tune about being changed and transformed and not letting the past define the present. As it relates to our work at Write Your Congressman, I had a heck of a day today with moments that then I would have handled so detrimentally differently. But now I can take a small measure of satisfaction in the results. And hopefully you can see yourself making these kind of good decisions too. In my first 4 years especially, I wish I had someone tell me about this kind of stuff. So here's what I mean. I have a remaining pile of renewals stretching from 1.5 to 2.5 hours from my house. It's a good pocket and worth the effort, but the only way to make it worthwhile is leaving the house early. And this is the kind of pile of work that brings those 40 plus point days, plural, when it's worked to the bone. So needless to say, I was pretty excited to work them today. Then I would have gotten up about 6:30 a.m.-ish and made it to my first nearest stop by 9 a.m.-ish. Now, I left the house today at 5:30 a.m. to get to the farthest stop by 8 a.m. and then work my way home. And those of you who know me and hang out with me a little bit know there's always going to be a coffee run first thing in the morning. So I hit my coffee shop at about 5:40 a.m., grabbing a venti dark roast with the half and half cream. And then I'm back in the old Jeep by 5:42 a.m. And man, I'm tooling down the road until the coolant light dings on and my old Jeep started to smoking. Yes, sir. A heck of a way to start the day, right? Then I would have instantly turned to anger and frustration and called for a tow truck. Now, I instantly turned the Jeep around and bolted to my mechanic across town as fast as I could. Thankfully made it, texted my wife Sarah to pick me up while she made the dropping the boys off run later in the morning. I dropped the key in the slot of the mechanic, who wouldn't be open until 7 a.m., and set up a 2-day rental car on my phone for an 8 a.m. pickup. By the time I was picked up, delivered to Enterprise Rent-A-Car, signed the necessary documents, and pulled out, it was 8:20 a.m. My 2.5-hour drive plan was not going to happen today. Then, if I even went to work at all this day, I would have stubbornly stuck to my plan and only gotten about 5 decent hours in the field before having to head back home. Now, I picked out my remaining scattered and much nearer renewals and rejoins and referrals yet to be seen, and I drove only a single hour's distance. But there's more. After that hour drive, I pulled up on a peach of an easy renewal. Karen, a 1998 double membership at a locally owned pharmacy, only to see on her building the sign that said, for sale. Then I would have cussed under my breath and canceled that card. But now I went to the neighboring business and asked if she knew where Karen was these days. And fortunately, she did. She explained Karen sold out to the big chain, and most of her staff was now working over there. So a quick address search on my phone, and off I set across town, walked in, asked one of those very same staff girls, and I got this full scoop. The best plan of action was for me to call on Karen at her home address. I did. She was there. She invited me into the living room, and she explained she probably couldn't write a big check like when she owned the business, and I said no worries. Proceeded to give her a standard, well-engaged renewal interview. She mentioned her college-aged son's new interest since the election. So I asked for him to be the add-on. She ended up swapping a former business recipient for her son, and she wrote a personal big check for the same $475. Then I'd have been looking at 2 cancels for a bunch of wasted driving. Now, a little more sleuthing and driving kept 2 viable memberships on the books. So one more account before I wrap up the reality of my 19-point day, those 7 renewals and 1 add-on and even 4 cancels, right? Who said that 1991 membership could retire? Anyways, I walked in on this last call to see a longtime single named Chuck. The only man there was Matt, his son. And the reason he was solo was because Chuck passed away 4 months ago of a sudden heart attack while working. Matt picked up the pieces and kept the business going. Then I would have offered condolences, kind of fumbled the moment a little bit, backed out, and just canceled the card. Now, I offered those same sincere condolences, and I talked about Chuck being a patriot who loved America. I told Matt he deserved the good news report now that he's running the business. I did a well-engaged, full-balloted interview, asked Matt for the add-on, and he wrote the check for $475 and thanked me for coming by. So if we summarize all this, it took me a long time to not be completely wrung out by a bad day of unforeseen events or one tough interview or one significant personal interruption to my day. It took me a long time to just breathe and realize I'll sell more memberships later today if the morning was bumpy, or tomorrow if my Jeep broke down today. It took me a long time to become unattached to the outcome. But I did. I have. I am, and I will. I made it a passionate pursuit. I'm not the same man, rep, husband, father, musician, friend that I was those 19 years ago when I started working at National Write Your Congressman. It's a maturing kind of thing. Breathe. Apply what you know to do. Do it. Go to work. Now. Some will, some won't. So what? Someone is waiting. Next. And that goes for water pumps on old Jeeps that give up the ghost at 5:42 a.m. So what? I'll get it fixed and I'll keep going.